Hello and welcome to Wake Up and Dream. We are excited. I'm here with Kelly and Sarah, and we have just this exciting topic. When you're in the middle of it, it's maybe not as exciting, but we're gonna hopefully inspire you and encourage you to let go, to release control, release the negative emotions, release and surrender. That's our topic for today because each of us have been kind of experiencing this in our own lives, and honestly, as we take a short look back over different situations, different things that we've come through, surrender has been life-giving, life-giving when we finally do let go and surrender. So I thought I'd get the party started because I mean this is kind of a hard topic. I think we as humans, and tell me what you guys think. We as humans, we love control. Don't you think?
I thought it was just me, but maybe it is just everyone.
It is. It's a human condition. And I think, I guess I'll just jump in with my cancer example. So I'm a 10-year cancer survivor. For those of you that maybe, are new to the podcast, welcome. And I remember distinctly, and it's happened in other situations, but cancer for me was like I had to let go of so much control. I had to let go of the control of, am I going to live or am I going to die? How are my kids going to manage? Am I going to be there to see them graduate from high school, college, their wedding? Like that's a lot of thinking and energy that I was holding on to that I really had no control over, but yet somehow I felt like it would be better if I felt like I was in control. But the bottom line is I wasn't. I wasn't in control of my future. We don't know what our future is going to hold. And I can either like choose to hold on to all of that worry and anxiety and fear is at the core of that holding on to control, or I can let it go, right? I can let it go. And and for whatever reason, it's like it's not something that we naturally want to do. Like we feel like we're losing control, so to speak, when we let go of control. But the beauty in it is when we do. I mean, I remember I had never had a major surgery. I had never done chemo, and I would be like, okay, I got this. It's going to be okay. And I would like talk positive to myself. I would pray. And the day before, I would be just riddled with fear because I'd be like, am I gonna like wake up from this surgery? Am I gonna die on the table? Like, all of the things became like paramount because that the next morning that's gonna be you in that operating room. And it's like you can't stop it. It's like it's happening, right? And you just have to like take the next step forward. And I remember so distinctly getting all worked up and holding my body so tensely, and the fear and all of the worries of the what ifs, like, am I going to wake up and throw up because I'm coming out of the pain medicine and the anesthesiology or whatever, the anesthetics, like there's so many unknowns. And it would be like the day before I would vocalize, God, I don't, I give you full control. You know the numbers of my days. You know if I'm to live or to die. And so I surrender and I trust. And honestly, girls, like when I would get to that place, peace like no other would flood my soul. And I would be like, okay, I'm ready for surgery. I can do this.
And it is
But
that
it,
surrender piece, right? Like you have to go there because that almost isn't the natural. That isn't where we naturally go. It's like, oh, it's going to be fine. And, no worries. Like you do start thinking all the negative things because our brain loves it there. That's our comfort zone, unfortunately, is negative, negative, negative. What's going to go wrong? What's going to go wrong? And it triggers back to what we do know. We don't know what the future is going to hold. So that's actually not a core memory in our brain, is to know how we get through the cancer treatments, how we get through infertility. Like we don't know, so it's not programmed into our brain of what that's going to look like. So yes, finding that peace, Lisa, and surrendering in that moment is just, it's that baggage that isn't ours to carry. I think that we even did an episode about that. Like, what's in your backpack? What
mhm,
are you carrying? Is it for
mhm.
you? Is it serving you? Is it even yours to carry? Are you carrying burdens of someone in your family, a relationship you're in, your job? Like some things you just have to surrender and let it go. Like you said, it's so much, it's freeing to have that feeling, to release what we don't have power over. Infertility too. Like I
Exactly.
could only do so much in those 6.5 years. Eat what you're supposed to, take your temperature, go on walks, do this, don't do that, and then it's out of your hands. And the burden sometimes, listeners, is just too heavy. And you have to let it go, or your body is just going to start screaming at you. And you're not going to be able to feel that joy that we're all meant to have. We're just going to keep living in the fear. And it's not easy, right? Like it's not,
No.
let's turn on the switch. We're going to be, surrendering today, and I'm going to have, complete faith and joy. And today's going to be different, but it's something you have to mentally do and commit to every single day.
Yes. And I've been reading just a little bit about like surrender and releasing like the negative emotions. And the first step is awareness. And that just falls in line with everything that we have been learning in our own personal growth journeys is you can't change something you're not aware of. And for me, I went to a emotional healing like cancer retreat a year after all of my surgeries and such. And um we had a yoga class. I'd never attended a yoga class. I was like, "Oh, I don't know about this." But the whole class was just breathing. Like there was no, downward dog. There wasn't any poses. It was you laid on this mat and you focused on paying attention to the tension that was in your body, and you isolated it in your neck, your shoulders, and you released it. You took your mental energies and you focused on releasing any tension that you were holding in, your neck, or you went through the whole body. And this breathing class, I'll call it a breathing class because like it was the best yoga class I've ever been to. But
I
I
kind of need that right
I
now, Lisa.
right, I know. Sarah, like, and I think of how we can just take a moment to breathe. But this was 45 minutes of just breathing. Maybe it was an hour. And after the class was done, I got up from my mat and I was like, I don't know, I've never felt like this. Like my body has never experienced this level of relaxation. Like I didn't have a single tensed muscle in my entire body. And I was like, I have got to figure out how to replicate this because this is where life is. Is this something that I can sustain in the midst of the, A, B's, and C's of the daily grind. No, not 100%, right? We can't live in our yoga state, but taking that with me and going, oh my gosh, this is an awareness. My body can get to this place of relaxation, of letting go of the tensions, letting go of control, letting go of the negative emotions that I was carrying around it. We can experience it. And it's in those times of taking a pause, breathing, taking that deep breath in and breathing out through our heart is so much an integral part of that surrender and release. It is so, so important. And we don't need to go away for a retreat and go to an hour yoga class. We can carve out times in our day. Maybe it's like, kids, when I'm in the bathroom, the door is shut and I'm having a moment, right? Like you don't have to be doing anything but breathing. Sit there and just allow the toxins. I mean, I think the aha that I had was, oh my gosh, I'm holding my breath. Like I literally was holding my breath in stress. And when we hold our breath, we are honestly inhibiting toxins from releasing from our cells. And that whole awareness piece was like, oh my gosh, I'm holding my breath. And so now 10 years later, I don't hold my breath. I'm very much aware, but I hold tension in my gut still to this day. And I'm becoming more aware of where I'm holding tension in my body. And then in that moment, when I'm aware, being able to go, okay, relax, relax, relax. And like releasing the tension in my muscles has been so, so helpful for me.
Yes, because that's not normal, right? Like, that's not how we're supposed to feel. Like, I know as moms and as wives and sisters and friends, we think that it's just a go, go, go state of mind, but it really isn't. Like, you shouldn't feel the tension. It's funny that you say that you stop breathing. I actually know that I clench my teeth. Like, I will clench, clench, clench. And for some reason, I went to like a breathing technique, sort of, I don't know, slash yoga, something or other as well. And another thing I do is I find myself, my tongue will sit on the roof of my mouth. So they say when you relax, obviously you release your shoulders and you unclench your jaw and remove your tongue from the roof of your mouth and then start your breathing techniques, because everybody has their little quirky thing, but when you feel your body speaking to you and something hurts, whether it's your neck or, like you say, in your gut, or just you feel this tension somewhere, that is your body telling you, you need to be aware of what's going on. And this is not for you. It's not serving you. And going into those like moments, like you said, even if it's 5-10 minutes, not an hour, you don't have to go to a retreat, just control your feelings if something comes up, even if you're blindsided by some news that you got today, or you've had a rough day at the office, or just take 5 minutes to just be aware of your body, because it's not yours to carry. That's not how God intended your body to feel. And then that comes out into our kids, into our marriages. Like, you just start spewing toxic energy everywhere that isn't healthy at all. And then sometimes we just need a good cry, just let it out. It doesn't have to be a physical thing, movement, but even crying can help release the negative energy.
As you're talking, Kelly, I'm like trying to relax my jaw, and I'm being aware.
I think everybody just did. They're like, wait, is my tongue on the roof of my
And I'm like, wow, there's so much tension right here. And I've actually been struggling with a headache the last day and a half too, which tenses me up anyway. So I just feel like there's so much tension in my shoulder, my neck, and my head. And I'm like, wow, Kelly, like I needed that reminder right now to just kind of release even that. I obviously I'm carrying a lot of stress. If you are watching this on YouTube, I was crying at the beginning as Lisa's just introducing this topic because all of the fears and worries that I'm I'm trying to let them go. And I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress. I'm going to actually go back on mute because I'm going to cry again.
Oh,
And we're all going
honey.
through it. We're all going through it in some sort of capacity. There's something heavy for everyone. And you know what? I want to tell our listeners, even in our chat yesterday that the three of us have, we are so grateful to have each other. And if you don't have that one or two people in your life that you can just spew and to lean on, like I pray that you go out of your comfort zone and try something new to find. And I think, honestly, I feel like we say this every episode, but it's just the core of who we are here at Wake Up and Dream, and having each other to lean on. Like, it is so important to have that safe space and the no judgment zone, and we're here for you, and tried this and this worked for, like, all the things. It's so important because we're not alone. We're all carrying something heavy. And you know what? Sometimes that feels like failure, that then we're just spinning out of control. We've each said that before, and we can't regain our bearings and feel like we're serving ourselves, much less anybody else. And it's heavy. But knowing that it's not about shutting down. Give yourself some grace with, the shutting down and the heaviness and the sense of failure, because you're not failing. Nobody's failing. We're all learning. But really letting go of what you can't control. Like Lisa was saying in the very beginning, like there's some things we do our best, and
Right.
we just do our best, right? Like,
Exactly. And I think one of the biggest things that I have been incorporating more, I don't know, recently than in years past is this idea of self-coaching, like coaching myself. I mean, community and finding those one or two like soul sisters. Yeah, like we advocate for that because we're we're made for community. We're not made to isolate ourselves. And I think sometimes when we're carrying the stresses, whether they be real, made up, justified, whatever, we're carrying them, right? And we can go, oh well, no one will understand because no, maybe no one has gone through cancer or struggled with infertility or struggled with just the negative thoughts that you're kind of honestly embarrassed to admit that they're yours, right? I mean, that's being vulnerable right there, saying, hey, these are my true honest feelings that I'm owning up, like they're mine.
and that's
But
such a
go ahead.
release too. Like when you
Yes.
release that, because when I did that with infertility, I did isolate myself. Like, I will admit that to all hills, because it was true. Like, I just felt like no one understood my story, no one understood what I was going through. And then there was also that shame part. Why
Yeah.
couldn't I have another baby? Why isn't this working for me? What am I doing wrong? And I didn't want to talk about it with anybody because I didn't want to hear anybody's opinion about how I was doing it wrong. But all those fears, that's just the enemy creeping in to isolate you and to make you feel like you have to carry that burden on your own. And that's not
Yes.
it's
No.
not what you're supposed to do. It's too heavy for you.
Right. And so having that community, but if you don't have that right now, lean into us. join our Facebook
Mhm.
community, because reach out to us individually, have that conversation. It's so, so important. But I want to kind of wrap things up today, because I really think we're going to do a part 2 on this, because I think there's so much more that we can talk about. And I think it's central to living is surrender. Like, we don't truly live when we're trying to hold on to control and all the things. Like, that's not living. That is killing us. Honestly, it's the opposite of that freedom and living. But when I think about self-coaching, I think about the fact that I can picture myself. So, um, a mentor of mine, she uses the bus analogy in her self-coaching. And there is a therapy called internal family systems. And Richard Schwartz, I believe, is the creator of internal family systems. And what he discovered in his counseling practice is that when he would do family counseling, there would be, mom, dad, brother, sister. And in the course of their session, he would see all of the parts on display. So, mom would say, well, the kids never do this, and I feel like I'm carrying the load for the whole family and not being appreciated. And the daughter's like, well, no one ever pays attention to me, and like that. And then the brother might say, well, I'm ticked. I'm ticked that, this, that, the other thing happened. And all of these emotions were displayed within the family, right? You've got a little victim, you've got
Mhm.
anger, you've got, resentment, you've got all of these emotions that are causing people to show up at family counseling. But then when he would counsel with an individual, and this is where I think it's like mind blowing to me, he discovered that in the course of a session with one individual, that the parts were all there. So it was just one person, but that person would say, I'm just really, sad because this, that, the other thing. And, and then be like, yeah, and he did this, and I'm really mad about that. And it would be all these emotions that were trapped inside the one person. So he
Mm.
took this internal family systems, that's what he's labeled it, and real the technique, or the method, is that we have parts of ourselves. We've got child parts. The child parts of ourselves are parts that are wounded, that haven't been consoled, that haven't matured, or lack the skills to thrive and survive and cope, but they're in there, right? I mean, a couple days ago, I was having a moment, a whole day moment, where I was just feeling like a pity party. And I was way in my pity party for good reasons. I had lots of good reasons. But
Mhm.
in this internal family systems, um, the analogy that I love is the bus. So the bus is your life. The bus is where you're going, and you have a driver. Your driver is your adult self. It is your confident, strong, able, connected with God self that is, it's dependable, right? That is your driver, part of you. But in your bus, you've got all your parts. You've got your sad part, you've got your resentful part, you've got your all the parts.
Mhm.
And in our culture, and even maybe how we were raised, if that part, what, help, I'm over here, I'm feeling sad, or like, this isn't fair, why is this happening to me? Like, these are our parts wanting a voice. But in our culture, and perhaps how we were raised, we were told, shut up, sit down, you know and we were basically trained to stuff our negative emotions. Like, they don't have a place, don't give them a voice, just pull up your bootstraps and let's do this, right? I mean, we're tough, we got this, we're gonna get through it. And that doesn't help that little part of you, that girl that's like, I'm scared, I don't know what's gonna happen. In the internal family systems, you're taught to have a conversation with yourself. So that little part of you that is scared, that feels out of control, perhaps, comes up to the front of the bus. And the driver part of you says, so tell me more about you feeling scared. And you have the conversation and you release all of the fears. You vocalize it, you journal about it, however you want to process, but you literally you are in a safe place with your driver part of yourself, because your driver loves you, right? It's your adult self. It's like when your kid comes up to you and says, "Mom, I'm scared." You don't go, "Shut up. Go back to your room." Like, that would be like so wrong. We embrace, give them a hug, and we like, "It's going to be okay, honey. I know how that feels. It's okay. I got you. We're going to get through this together." Well, in that model, that's what your adult driver self coaches and counsels that child version that's struggling. And it's such a beautiful, I just love the analogy of it, because all of the people, all of the parts that are on our bus, they're not going anywhere, right? Like, they're with us. But if we give them a voice and we love them and we show compassion and we give them that safe place, and then the adult part of us shows up and says, I I understand, but guess what? I got you. You're not alone. I'm here. I will strengthen you and keep you. And that's our God self that literally empowers us to do hard things and to release control.
And I
So
think that
I don't
is
know.
so good, Lisa. I love that analogy with the bus and the driver and all the emotions that are sitting in the back seats. Like, it's true, especially when we get to our adult lives. Like, we sweep stuff under the rug because we don't have time to deal with our stuff as women. Like, we run the household and we're doing all the things and schedules and lunches and sports, and we forget about us. But if we take those moments that we're feeling defeated, like a failure, we're shutting down, recognize those feelings, be aware, right? Because we can't change something that we're not aware of, but dig deep into yourself and give yourself that compassion. Like, I did this last night with Jace. He was, having a hard evening, and, he was feeling scared and sad and all these emotions. And I go, you know what? Me too, buddy. And as you were speaking, Lisa, it was just like, why don't I tell myself that instead of just to my son? Like, oh, I know that feeling. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be in the unknown. Like, let's talk about it, self. How does that make you feel? What are you making that mean? Let's take a minute. Like you said, sit in the bathroom if you have to for the private moment and just, what's coming up for me? What is this? Am I shutting down? Is this serving me? Or do I need to let this one go? How can I change how I'm feeling, changing how I'm serving myself? What can I do to release and surrender? I think this was Such a great episode, ladies. So, so good. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for our audience. Again, please reach out to us in our Facebook group, Wake Up and Dream. We'll have that link in our show notes. I think we do need a part 2, maybe 3, 4, 5 to continue this lesson, because I think it's just being honest. It's being vulnerable about not feeling ourselves, our full selves. We talk about a lot in this podcast of how to make it better, but, and what to do, and we give you tools, but digging deep into these feelings and being honest about how, what's coming up for us, I think, in hopes that it just kind of opens the door for you, our listeners, to become more aware of what you're going through and to want to make those changes. So thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Wake Up and Dream. We appreciate you so, so much. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time.